is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 398. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Now, while overall, waking up every day at 12 is a glorious, glorious thing. Today, Brandon, might be one of the most glorious of all the days. Think about it, man. We're in the playoffs. We have a top 5 draft pick. Everything that could have possibly happened to go right for us, for the most part, as best as we could have ever hoped. It's all transpired. We're in the freaking playoffs, man. We have an actual chance to go down to Santa Clara and continue this season. They get through this game, it's wide open, baby. And Mother Nature might be on our side here. I'm fired up, man. I don't know how fired up you are, but I imagine it's probably even more.
Everything is flowing our way. And yes, well, like you mentioned, maybe not everything just exactly perfectly. You know, could we have finished with a top 3 draft pick instead of a top 5? Sure. Could the chips have fallen? So I don't know. Maybe we play the Vikings in the first round of the playoffs instead of the Niners. But who knows if that even matters? I mean, if you're going to go to the Super Bowl, you may as well go through one of the favorites and a division rival in the San Francisco 49ers.
Especially if you can get it done, knock it out early. And then that leaves you a field of the Giants, Tampa, Philly, the Vikings. You just start thinking about those teams and you're like, do any of those really scare me? And the answer is emphatically no. Those are all very winnable contests, potentially. But you have to get through the juggernaut, the behemoth, the team that everybody has already penciled in to the Super Bowl this year in the Santa Clara Dirty Niners. On first blush, it's daunting. And especially after seeing the results of the first 2 games. But if you really sit down and think about it, I'm saying there's a chance.
Well, and I think some people would say that Philly is a juggernaut within the NFC. They've kind of slowed here, I think, toward the second half of the season. But in terms of what the Seahawks struggle with, it is the Niners and the Philly offense that I feel like I would have to worry about the most with the Seahawks defense. And there's probably people listening going, why are you guys even talking about like there's any chance to win in this game? Just be happy that we made it to the playoffs. And I say to you, no, I'm not just happy that we made it to the playoffs. Once we're in the playoffs, I change my expectations to the point where I want to win every game. Now, am I going to be satisfied with the season if the Seahawks were to lose one of these games, not make it to the Super Bowl? Yeah, I could be satisfied with it, but I want my team to win coming up on Saturday.
And it's tough because you got to manage expectations, right? But let's talk about the number one expectation we need to manage here. It's a new season. We're all 0-0. The Niners have done squat at this point. They've done just as much as we have here in the postseason. It's 0-0. It's a level playing field. And well, the Niners are trotting out a 3rd string rookie QB who, by all accounts, he's looked good. But the playoffs are a different animal. That's a whole nother thing. Not everybody is Tom Brady, where they get drafted late and start crushing it.
Are you trying to tell me that the Niners don't get to carry those 10 games of their winning streak into the playoffs and somehow use that again? Like that doesn't give them extra points to start out with against Seattle?
If anything, I think it's the opposite, right? It gives them negative points because the higher those winning streaks get, the closer you are to being the Patriots to somebody's New York Giants, a team that has no chance, has no business beating you. But as those games pile up, it gets harder and harder. The expectations grow higher and higher, and they're sky high down there in Santa Clara. And I can't believe that this team went out and handled their business against the Rams to give them this opportunity. And then to have Dan Campbell and all them boys up in Detroit go out and play their ass off and make this possible. Like, big hats off to them. It's all coming together to give us this opportunity. Plus, it's tough to beat somebody 3 times in a row. So good luck with that for the 49ers. But I don't want to just get to the Niners because we do have a great victory over the Rams. Even though it was tight and a little ugly, it was awesome because it happened.
It was awesome because it happened. It was awesome because the defense only allowed 3 points after the second half. including keeping them scoreless in overtime, which was the most important thing. Quandre Diggs coming up with a big pick, showing off to Bobby, maybe avoiding a flag. Then we had other officiating decisions go our way in the second half. It was very strange watching so many officiating decisions go our way in the second half after they went against us in the first half. I don't know if there was a switch that was somehow flipped on the officiating at halftime. It worked out in our favor. The other thing that I really enjoy about this is that we seemingly get to end Sean McVay's career. Like, he loses 2 games in the same season to the Seahawks, and he's like, well, I guess I shouldn't coach in the NFL anymore.
Oh, gosh, what a coward that guy is, right? Like, it seems as if he is literally walking away as soon as times get tough, right? They mortgage your entire future.
That's how the saying goes. When the going gets tough, quit.
Yeah, the tough actually get going. They leave, right? Yeah, that's the phrase. No, it's kind of gross. And I don't know if you caught Pete's presser. I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday, but they asked him about, well, is it harder to win or is it harder to sustain it? And Pete goes on a long answer about what it means to win a Super Bowl and get on top and create culture and the difficulties in producing all of that. And then really, I think, giving the screws to McVay. I think these were all veiled shots at McVay as he walks out the door, because Pete's like, yeah, that's all hard, but sustaining success. Now, that right there is where it's really difficult to win forever. Those were all just shots straight across McVay's bow. Sure. I freaking loved it.
Anybody can sell their soul for a team that can win 1 Super Bowl, but how about making it to, I don't know, 10 different playoff appearances over the course of 13 years. That's a little bit more challenging.
Turns out that takes some skill, and skill that McVay either has or doesn't have, but we're not going to find out because he's going to run along to the booth, which in a lot of ways, I can't blame him. Like, on a business perspective, this is definitely the smartest move he could make.
Because who's going to want you in the booth after you have 3 straight losing seasons because you're trying to stick with the team as it rebuilds? I think that you maybe could have been a little bit smarter this past offseason after the Super Bowl to try and plan around those things if you're just looking at it from that franchise perspective. But I'm perfectly happy with the Rams going back to being terrible and not having to face Sean McVay a couple times a year. I'm a little bit upset, though, by the fact that another coach in the division, and Kliff Kingsbury, got fired. I enjoyed going up against him twice a year. And so we're likely going to have new coaches in half of this division. And that brings a certain level of uncertainty that it's going to be new. But hopefully, just considering the moves those 2 franchises have made in the past, maybe we can expect them to be more poor decisions to come.
Well, we can only hope, right? And you're right. Half the coaches in the NFC West will have turned over. And you even heard Pete say a little something about that too. He's like, we've seen a lot of coaches come and go in the NFC West over the years. And it just all was a beautiful, beautiful dig on the rest of the division. I loved it. And the thing is, Brandon, what if the Niners actually do lose this Saturday? And what does that mean for Kyle's job security? This juggernaut of a team and all that. You're telling me that you're sure his job's totally safe? I don't know, man.
That's a good point. It probably isn't totally safe, especially if they lose in some kind of embarrassing fashion in Santa Clara. And it's not completely out of the question. We're going to get more into the preview with the matchup. I'm still kind of basking in the glow, though, of beating the Rams and finishing with a winning record this season, 9-8, and they get to do it with 2 wins over the Rams. Sure, I'm disappointed that we went 0-4 against the NFC South. Could you imagine how much different the outlook for this team would be if they just beat, I don't know, half of those teams?
Just one of them. They'd be in a totally different spot.
Sure.
It's crazy. I hear what you're saying, and it is awesome to finish the season, the regular season, because there's more season, with a win over the Rams, because screw those guys, number one. Secondly, I love that Bobby got cheered when he was there at the stadium before the game. For the most part, it was all cheers. And anybody who says that the 12s don't know how to react to people because they're all over our ass about the way people reacted to Russ. Well, okay. You see the result of that situation, which had its own dynamic, and the 12's reaction to Bobby when he comes back, and it had a totally different dynamic. And they welcomed him with open arms, and he did not have that same game that he had the first time against us. Thank goodness, because he was a game wrecker in the first game. But the cool part about this victory to me for the Seahawks is that they won without using their formula completely. And basically that's been Geno carry us. And that might be Geno's worst game of the year. And they still come out victorious. I think that's a huge deal that the defense picked things up. The special teams eventually came through, and it was in the run game came to life again. And I think that's a huge part of that victory that's exciting to me.
Yeah, when you say might be his worst game of his season, I can't think of a worse one. Shoot.
Maybe the first 49ers matchup?
Yeah. But when you start off, and I can at least with that first 49ers matchup, it's the second week of the season. You're playing with 2 rookie tackles against a strong defensive line. The team you don't quite have that feeling for what the team can be, how the offense runs. It's very different toward the end of the season. I can't quite explain away the struggles as much at this point of the season as I could maybe in week 2. So that's part of the concern. But at the same time, I suppose you could just explain it away like, well, you can have a bad game every once in a while. But
I think there's other factors, but yeah.
But the start by Geno, there's not many times where you're going to start off the game by throwing an interception, the first pass of the game. That puts you in a hole.
That's unlikely. And you talked about the circumstances in week 2 and not knowing your guys on offense as well, rookie tackles, yada, 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 right? All the things that are fresh to the quarterback. Yet for the majority of that first half of the season, that's when Geno was really tearing it up. And that was because there wasn't a lot of tape out on this offense with Geno at quarterback.
Right.
And so it gets a lot harder as you go down the stretch, as now you put your full resume out there and the league knows what they're looking for with you. And so you see that adjustment by the league. And now it's time for a Waldron Geno adjustment going forward. And the thing is I think against the Niners, if he can avoid that really early turnover like he had against the Rams, then he'll be just fine, because it seemed like right after that pick, then every ball for at least the first half, if not going into the second half, they're just so late on all the throws because he was double, triple checking to be sure he's going to get the ball in there. And then it's too late.
Right.
So if he can keep out of that, you're probably going to be all right.
And I hope that he can make that adjustment in his mind too, especially with it being this new season and not having to worry about that, because they really don't have anything to lose in this game. So what the heck, go out there and be a chucker. And yeah, you want to keep your team in it, but at the same time, you have to be.
You want to keep your team in it.
Yeah, and you want to be on point. And if you're off, then there's really not much chance anyway.
So one of the beautiful things about this game in the way that it sets up, we keep getting off the Rams because I think we both. Let's put a bow on the Rams game real quick. Wasn't the greatest game from the offense, especially in the passing game. Kenneth Walker did come through. He looks decisive up the middle. The offensive line played much better as a unit, I think. Gabe Jackson actually had a pretty nice game. And the defense,
Lucas was back and had a nice game.
Yeah, and the defense, they really came to play. Now, with that said, is it against the Rams JV? Yep, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get all of the Niners varsity players except for one. And so it's going to be a different challenge, no doubt about it. But it was about as complete of a team win as I've had all year. And you combine that with the running game kind of clicking for the last 2-3 weeks. There's some cause for optimism there.
The running game is going to be critical in this game coming up against the Niners. Yep. Or maybe it's not. Maybe Geno just has another amazing passing game and they don't have to rely on the run that much. If it's going to go that way, though, Geno's going to have to be pretty quick with getting rid of the football.
And that's just it. So what are you going to do to mitigate this 49ers pass rush? Number one, they're going to have to be stout up the middle. Look, we're going to need the best game of the year from Jackson, Blythe, Lewis. Those guys play a great game. We're right in this. We're absolutely right in this. The edge guys are going to get theirs now and then. And so you just kind of concede that. But one of the ways you can help that is if Geno's just really decisive. And one of the beautiful things about this week with the Niners is all of the expectations and pressures are on them. There are none on the Seahawks. So while you have to play a mistake-free game against maybe the best team in the NFC right now to win, you also have the catfish factor. Just catfish it. Just throw the ball. Just what do you have to lose? Just be decisive, gun it in there. And if Geno does that, gets the ball out of his hands quickly, it really is going to help to neutralize that 49ers pass rush. And then because you're going to do that a lot because the weather's bad, a lot of short passes and all that, you can maybe set up for that one big chunk play where you break the back of the Niners in a low scoring affair. Because that's what I think this will be.
I think it's important to get that big chunk play early. One of the things that we saw going back to the Niners-Raiders game, that was what happened. They got up on the Niners early, and then it seemed to even things out a little bit in that matchup, because you would have thought going into that game between the Raiders and Niners that the Raiders would have no chance. Jarrett Stidham playing backup quarterback. They have a relatively bad defense, the Raiders. They haven't been great this year. And you would probably characterize the Seahawks defense that way too. But you get the big play early. You're able to keep it close then for that first half. And if this game is close in the second half, it can really go either way, I think. And if it comes down to a big turnover, especially with a rookie quarterback on the other side of the ball, this last game against the Niners, the reason why I'm so even a little bit hopeful, if you take out a turnover, if you take out a missed opportunity to turn the ball over, that last game against San Fran is a whole lot closer. And yeah, okay, it was in Seattle at Lumen Field. Now it's going to be in Frisco. Still, I think that, the playing surface could end up being a factor too with all the rain that they're getting this week.
Yeah, it sounds like the weather's not going to be good. And I will say that I think that the Seahawks have a distinct advantage in a bad weather, high pressure playoff game where they have none of the pressure. They don't have any of the pressure. It's all on the Santa Clara team. And I love that we have a coach that's wired perfectly for that type of game, because the weather balances out a little bit the talent discrepancy between the two teams. And then it's just a rock fight. And in that sort of game where you just have to take care of the ball, play a little bit more conservative, field position, be smart that way, that's Pete Carroll ball. And I think that sets up really nicely for the Seahawks in comparison to the Santa Clara team, where I don't have that same faith in Kyle Shanahan. I mean, I've watched teams that he has coached or been a part of coaching give up, I don't know, leads in a big pressure game of that, maybe a rhyme with Shmoney Nate to Tree. So, yeah.
Yeah. Famously as the offensive coordinator of the Falcons, and, even giving it up in the Super Bowl when they were up on the Chiefs.
Exactly. So it's going to be fun. And shoot, even if it is all Niners and all one way and all that stuff, like you said, hard not to be satisfied with the season and the effort that these men have put forth. It's really incredible. And so, yeah, it's kind of exciting to have this be your position, to be the hunter rather than the hunted. And the Niners aren't great when they're in that position.
And if you look back in the history of the Seahawks franchise, you go back to maybe 2012 when Russell Wilson's rookie season, you go back to when they sneak into the playoffs with a losing record at 7-9 season and they end up playing the New Orleans Saints. Tell me this does not feel very similar to think back to the feelings that you had getting in the playoffs as a 7-9 football team. Charlie Whitehurst gets you the win over the Rams to send you to the postseason. Right. Matt Hasselbeck's coming back off of injury, and you're playing the defending Super Bowl champions. And by the fact that they're a wild card, they were the top wild card, but you got the home game and they had to come here. And everybody wrote off the Seattle Seahawks going into that game. Nobody thought they were going to win. And Pete Carroll got that team loose and believing that they could get the job done against the defending Super Bowl champions.
For sure. This season, I heard Brock and Salk talk about this a little bit on their show the other day. Like what former Seahawks season, has these vibes, right? And I think Brock brought up the 2011 year, and I think it's kind of a mesh of 2011 and 2010, right? It's the playoff end of the 2010 season. And it's the regular season of 2011, even though they missed the playoffs. T-Jack as your starter, playing through the torn pec, you see a bunch of young dudes that are just there now, and all of a sudden they're emerging. And you're like, oh, maybe there's something here. And look at how competitive they are in that sort of thing. Only this group is getting a little better play out of Geno, and then they managed to get into that playoff game with a winning record on top of all that. So it's very similar to that first rebuild that Pete Carroll and John Schneider orchestrated. And you see them bringing it to life the second time around. And the kind of cool part about it is, since they're not cleaning up the mess of the last guy, this is going a lot quicker and a lot easier because they already have a bunch of pieces in place they like. Now it's just a matter of changing a few around there. And part of that was jettisoning Russ and moving to Geno.
Yeah. Part of it was getting rid of Bobby too, which I'd be happy if he still stuck around, but
don't bring me down, Bruce.
But I'm not going to try and bring you down because there are some cool stories in terms of veterans getting their first opportunity at the playoffs, getting a new opportunity. I love the Bruce Irvin story going into this game. The fact that he's the one guy left from that 2012 team that gets to be a part of this rebuild and to take this team into the playoffs in this defense. I was surprised to find that Shelby Harris has never played a playoff game because he started off his career with the Oakland Raiders. He went to Denver after they had their winning seasons. And so he's only known teams with losing records playing in Denver, now getting an opportunity to start in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you've heard Nick Bellore talk about it in his presser this last week about, how special it really is because he went a number of years before he finally got to the Seahawks and started having that success. And then he said, once you're here and you start to feel it on the regular, all of a sudden now that is the norm, right? And you don't even really think about it. And I can't imagine the thrill for somebody like Shelby Harris to finally sneak in. And heck, I hope he's around next year. He's been a good contributor to be a part of really only an improved unit that may even have better odds of going even further. But like I said, then again, you get past this Niners team, who knows? Like you really could sell me on about anything.
I guess the big concern going into the playoffs, and this is why it bothers me that there were so many people that coming out of this week. And yes, I know you said not to bring you down, but doesn't it bring you down a little bit when you hear, the Seahawks got in, but I much would have rather seen the Lions get in the playoffs. Well, why would you rather see the Lions over the Seahawks? The Lions had the number 32 ranked defense in the entire NFL. Sure, yeah, they put up some points on offense. So did the Seahawks. And you think that the Lions have any better chance at beating the Niners than the Seahawks do, and a Pete Carroll team that knows the 49ers as well as he does, a coach who has never lost to the 49ers in the postseason, and he takes his matchups with his former teams so seriously. Just to hear him talk about, and he would, again, Pete's good at dropping these little hints of what it means to him to face off against teams like the Jets a couple weeks ago, a team that let him go. And obviously the Niners were a team that let him go after he was the defensive coordinator there in the mid-90s. Minnesota, just whenever those matchups present themselves, he always seems to have just a little bit extra. And I don't know, I suppose it's just that competitive nature of Pete.
Yeah, for sure. They asked him, about the teams that he likes to prove wrong and things like that. And he's like, yeah, especially the ones who fire me.
Right.
I love that. That was really fun. And you're not wrong. He does bring out a little extra juice. And also, I think this team, as much as they get up there and they're all like, no, we totally expected this. We knew what we had in the building. Yada, 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 yada. Okay, then. Like, I'm sure you were confident, but come on now.
Yeah.
Like, they all have to be just so geeked for this opportunity that's coming up. And like I said, with the weather being the way that it is and a rookie 7th round quarterback that now has to produce in the playoffs on a loaded roster, because if he doesn't produce, that's everybody's just going to point the finger at him and he may never see another starting gig again, right? They'll go back to Garoppolo next year or whatever the hell it is that they're going to try to magically conjure up at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
I think this game, because he's not a downfield thrower to begin with, a guy who throws like at the sticks and under for the majority of his throws, you can sit on defense on all those shorter routes. I would much rather they play him a much more like they played Baker in this last game. They really played up on all the receivers a lot more than they've had in the past and really just shut down everything in the intermediate and underneath stuff. And they almost got beat on a deep one, but Quandre came and erased it. But a guy like Purdy in the weather, he's definitely going to have to be in that area of the field, right? That intermediate to short stuff. So at that point, that makes the Seahawks defense a lot more plausible in terms of being able to stop the run because you have your guys up in the box. You can actually, have your corners out there to help set the edge because to me, that's where it is for the Niners. You got to keep that lateral run game in check, whether that's Debo on the fly sweeps or McCaffrey on the tosses, things like that. You can do that. You're going to have a fighting chance.
The big concern with the 49ers offense and why I think Purdy has been so efficient at running it is because of the talent that they have on offense. You can just dump the ball off to a guy like Debo Samuel 2 to 3 yards downfield, and he's able to make guys miss. Like you have to bring everybody to make those tackles, whether it's Debo, whether it's George Kittle, and even Christian McCaffrey, who has managed to stay healthy through this second half of the season. So he's an elite player when he is able to stay healthy. And that particular trio of guys, and then, you add in guys like Ayuk and some of their other pieces that they have on offense. But to me, it's those three guys that make the job of Purdy so easy.
Oh, for sure. And this entire 49ers team really relies on yards after catch, right? It's all get it to your playmakers, let them do all the hard work, that sort of thing, which is great when you have a guy like Brock Purdy pulling the strings at the moment. It really does make him look good. The beauty is that sloppy fields, they negate that advantage. Like if you're an offense that really thrives on yards after the catch, having a sloppy field is about the worst thing that you can have. It's like putting the greatest show on turf in those sort of conditions. It really does slow that track meet down and evens out the difference between personnel defensively for the Seahawks and the Niners. So I think that's huge. And then conversely, you look at the Seahawks offense, it very much is not predicated on run after the catch yards. It's really a lot more be to your spot on time, block it up, and Geno will find you. And that sort of timing offense, I think, can produce better in these sort of conditions.
Yeah, you still have those big playmakers on defense, though, that you have to concern yourself with. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, guys who are all pros. The all-pro list just came out. And on the back end, you got Hufanga, who's having an excellent year, too. So I struggled to figure out where they're really going to be able to find those weak points to be. I think you have to hope for a close score, because I guess I just don't see it being a shootout type game like it was down in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, especially if the field's sloppy.
And especially with two division rivals meeting up for the third time in just this one season. I think that's a huge deal. And that usually lends itself to rock fights of games because you just know everybody so well. So I kind of see this as a 20-17, 17-14 kind of game.
I'm just trying to stay in the mindset, and I guess it's easy to stay in that mindset when I see how loose they put the camera, social media, and you see it coming out on the Seahawks Twitter account and through Facebook and that sort of thing. Just how loose it seems like guys like Geno and Pete are this week, and that's a big product of the type of culture that Pete is building, and it's fun to see that come out, that the players are remaining loose going into the playoffs, because I also think that can be an advantage. You talked about that a little bit earlier, the pressure that comes with being one of the favorite teams in the Niners, and the pressure that is potentially on them if they were to lose this game. I know I've seen some of the memes out on social media of, what 49ers fans will look like if their team loses this game, and it's, the troll with like the bloodshot red eyes. And then what Seahawks fans will look like if their team loses this game, and it's like, just leaning back and enjoying it. It is
nice. It's nice to be in this position where you don't always get to be, and I'm definitely going to enjoy it. And then you think about, Purdy's played 5-6 games now? Is it 6? I think it's 6.
Brock took over full time, I think, in that game against the Dolphins. That was the first December game, so he's played 3. He's played 6 regular season games now, and he did play a little bit against the Chiefs, but it's really 6 starts for Brock.
Well, there you go. 6 good starts in a row. You're telling me that guy's never going to have a clunker? The streak has to end at some point. It does. It really does.
Sure, yeah. And when you look at his quarterback rating, it was that first game that he's struggled the most with, which wasn't really that bad of a game against the Dolphins. 88.8 quarterback rating. And since then, it's been all in the hundreds, except for the Raiders game where it was 95. He threw 1 pick in that game, but still a relatively good day, with 63% passing. And that was going up against Max Crosby on the opposite side of the line with the Raiders. So if the Seahawks, can they find a way to get some pressure on Purdy this time? The last time these two teams faced, it was 2 blitzes from the Seahawks. Now, part of that could be strategic, because facing the Niners, you may not want to blitz with all those weapons that they have and their ability to break tackles. But again, that could change if the weather's a little bit different. Maybe you do send a blitz a little bit more often, because you don't have that concern of some of those breakaway type plays when he's dumping it off to his hot route. And, maybe the football's a little bit slippery too.
I just think with the position the Seahawks are in coming into this game, you are playing with house money. So why not? Why not heat up the 7th round rookie and see if he holds up under the pressures of a playoff game with guys just double A gapping him every other play and running crazy stunts and dropping weird coverages and all that stuff, and play up on everything. If they do get one over the top on you, fine. Then they just scored a little quicker. So now you have a little more time to go ahead and go back and try to regroup.
They did that anyway. The last matchup, but Kittle had a couple big touchdown catches where they got past the defense.
Too. Yeah, he probably will have another big game.
So don't be scared of it, because who knows? It may just happen anyway.
Right. So if it's going to happen anyway, why don't you take away all the stuff that happens in between by blitzing Purdy, heating him up, making it tough for him to run the football? That's the way that I would go about it. I would get ultra aggressive in this game in terms of defensively speaking. Offensively, I'd do my damnedest to try to get that running game going. Lots of extra Curhan time out there, more Ballore, please, all that stuff. Just get in the eye, and if you can jelly it Just do it. Just 3 yards, 2 yards. And really the big thing for them offensively is third down conversions. And I think that all starts with what happens on first down for them. If they can be, at least 2+ yards on first down, each and every, set of downs, they're going to be in good shape. And conversely, if you can do the opposite to the Niners, because the way that Brock Purdy is successful is 3rd and 6 and under.
Yeah.
Make him try to convert a 3rd and 12 in the rain. Let's see it. It's going to be hard.
Sure, but this defense isn't that great at stopping some of those plays that you would expect to, because they seem to be very vulnerable to give up plays. Maybe 3rd and 8 is kind of the sweet spot for this defense to be in.
Well, if you're playing up and you're not terrified of giving up the deep ball, right? Then you're not as vulnerable to the give up plays.
That's true.
Because you're there to rally to the ball carrier on the stupid draw. So, I think that's the key to me. And I did see them play that way against the Rams. So I know they can do it. I know schematically that they can do it. It's in the playbook defensively. And I'd like to see more of Alexander Johnson out there. I like the way that he looked at linebacker, 34 with the dreads. I had no idea he was on the team. I had no idea he was on the active roster. I had no idea he was going to get some playing time. I had no idea he was a former Bronco and played a bunch of snaps.
Yeah.
But he's good in the run game, man. I like the way that he fit things up and strong.
And Cody had a good game. Cody Barton in this past game. I wonder if middle linebacker is just more the natural position for Barton.
It could be. It could be. Because that play down near the goal line or in the red zone, that
right after the interception.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was on the very first drive by the Rams where it was the toss out to the back on the perimeter there. And Cody reads it, runs it down, and makes a touchdown saving tackle.
He had to read that really early, and he did. Yeah. And I thought that was, I don't love the scheme, the way that that's supposed to work, but I get it.
Yeah, I don't love that it was Cody that had to run that down, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to get there.
I didn't either. But he saw it so early. I mean, he was shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
I think Sanchez even said, he jumped the snap count, but to go backwards. And you don't often see that. And that's a good point.
So a good game by him. We saw Nwosu have an incredible game with 6 pressures. If he can do that against McGlinchey on the Niners right tackle, that would be huge. Bruce can have another 1.5 sack game. Darrell Taylor, if you can get into situations where Darrell Taylor is rushing the quarterback, he's been solid this second half of the season. So hopefully they get in positions to where they can use guys like that. And I think a part of that does come from having linebackers that are able to make tackles and keep some of those breakout runs from happening. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people talk about Darrell Taylor and him being a big part of this game and, how much he's come on. And I'm not saying that he hasn't. He has. I just don't know that in this matchup, how often Darrell Taylor is going to be on the field. I think because of his skill set, he's much better in pass-only situations. And that's just not something the Niners are forced into often. Now, if they're able to do that, then I think you'll see him on the 3rd and longs and things like that. So to me, it's not just obviously Nwosu's a key. He's got to be disruptive or at least pulling double, triple teams, right? To make it easy on the other guys. Now, the secondary pass rusher that I think really needs to have a huge game is Mafe. He has the size. He plays the run pretty well. And you've seen him come on here a little bit in his pass rush. He had a sack in the last game or a half sack. And I think that's the guy that I'm looking for defensively if it's going to be a marker of the Seahawks having a good Saturday.
I was thinking you'd say Shelby Harris, and a part of that with that being his first playoff game, maybe a little added motivation and, just a little more fired up. And especially, I think with the Niners offensive line, the interior is more of the weakness than guys like Trent Williams on the left side.
Hey, I'd take a vintage Shelby Harris game where he maybe has a sack and a half and 3 batted down passes. That'd be great. I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Now, there's also part of me that thinks that this game could go poorly. It could go poorly, especially if Geno is playing loose with it, not getting it into those tight windows like we've seen him try and make those throws, and with him and DK just not quite being on that same page. It seems like it's mostly him with DK, that he tries to fit it in, and Geno thinks that DK is going to do one thing and DK doesn't do it. And that's what leads to some of these throws where he wants DK to stop or he wants him to jump. And it's those little micro moments and miscommunications. And I don't even know if they're miscommunications. They're just Geno thinking something's going to happen and it doesn't.
Yeah, he does have a tendency to force it to DK. And I get that. I mean, he's a big time playmaker in this offense, if not the biggest of all of the playmakers. But, as far as this going poorly, in fact, that's far more likely, as all the 49ers fans who have been listening to this up to this point, yelling delusional Seahawks fans at their phone or their headphones. That was some Pollyanna pie in the sky stuff. We talked about the positives, but if we're going to be very realistic about this game, it's more likely that this goes poorly than it goes well. It's like 70-30, but 30's not nothing. That's how much of a chance I gave Drew Lock to be a franchise guy at the beginning of this year. I just put it on the wrong quarterback, and you see that it can happen. You can prove him wrong. I just think the weather aspect of this is just so huge.
Yeah.
If it wasn't going to be like that, it was going to be a nice, beautiful California day, I'd probably take it back to 85-15. Yeah, somewhere in there. But because of that, and just third matchup of the year, and Seahawks kind of rolling just a little bit, and the Niners haven't rolled kind of a little too long. Teams have clunkers.
10 straight wins. I think it was a 10 straight victory. Because what season was it where they started out with 10 straight wins? Was it last year? No, I think it was a couple years ago, because it was wasn't it the Clowney game where they had those 10 straight wins and Clowney came in and just destroyed it, and we ended up ruining. Maybe that wasn't the 10 win season, but maybe I just remember that as a Clowney breakout game.
Yeah, and then was immediately injured after that, and then
right.
wasn't. Yeah.
Oh no, it wasn't 10 straight wins. It was 8 straight wins. And it was the Seahawks in overtime getting the win. It was back in 2019, and it was the Clowney game because he had the fumble return for the touchdown in that game. Right.
Okay. So you were on it. You remembered correctly.
Look at me.
I'm glad the Googles had your back on that.
Yeah. So this is our opportunity to end another one of San Francisco's big winning streaks. That's fun.
Yep. And with the bonus of it being win or go home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be fun no matter what. And
well, I won't say no matter what. If it's a blowout, that's not going to be fun. If it's the Seahawks that get blown out, I mean,
we made it. We had a winning record.
No, I'm just saying it won't be fun in that moment because it's a rival and it would be a playoff loss. But I could get past it a lot quicker. Whereas if you hand the Niners a loss, they're going to be stewing on it all off season, and some of them are probably going to be calling for Shanahan's job.
So look, this is going to be an offensive line Ken Walker kind of game.
I'm excited for that guy too, man. Going over 1,000 yards in his rookie season.
Not even starting all the games.
And just, giving credit to the offensive line. And speaking of the offensive line, having the rookie tackles that have performed very well. Lucas making the all-pro rookie team, whatever organization puts that out. It was Abe Lucas and Tariq Woolen. I don't know why Walker didn't make it on there. What other rookie running back are you going to put on there? I didn't see it. So I just saw the 2 players on the Seahawks who made it. I'm going to have to track it down and find out which organization gave a different running back other than Walker the rookie title. They probably gave it to Breece Hall just because he's a Jet.
Yeah, probably. I remember when the last time we had a rookie of the year candidate, this one happened to be on offense, who got snubbed for a guy that played out on the East Coast that was supposedly way better. Now that guy that won that award is on TV making dirty jokes every chance that he can get in RG3. So I think that we have both the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year on this team. And it's going to be a shame when they don't receive it because media.
Oh, of course. I found out that it was PFF, and of course it's PFF because they go off of their grading system, and they recognize even though Ken Walker and Dameon Pierce broke more tackles and had more yards, Tyler Algier of the Atlanta Falcons graded out more highly, and so he makes their list.
Cool. Shares a backfield with a wide receiver, but I gotcha.
Yeah. Well, thanks to PFF, I guess, for giving it to a couple of our rookies. Like, they could have completely stoned us, and because why not? They've historically not given our offensive linemen good grades anyway. So to see that a Seahawks offensive lineman actually made it, that's pretty strong.
It's pretty strong. They do seem to be extra hard on our particular offensive lineman. That's fine. Whatever. Like, PFF is one of those things where, like, if you're trying to figure out things about a player, you can go there, you can see what they have graded. You can compare that to the eye test. You compare that to some other organizations and some of the numbers and metrics that they come up with. It's a data point, and it's a good one, but it's certainly not the end all be all.
Well, congrats to that pair. Congrats to our rookies in general who played a heck of a season. Congrats, hey, to our sole All-Pro, Adam. Jason Myers.
Yeah.
Making the All-Pro team.
It's kind of funny after he pushed everything right and then damn near lost the game.
But he won the game. That's the important thing. Jason Myers won that game.
He did. Yeah. J Money gets it done. And we're going to need him. Going to need him this Saturday. Now, this last week, you were all up on the scheduling conspiracy of the Lions and the Seahawks and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Which turned out to be totally false, but that's cool.
I mean,
any big conspiracies this week, Brandon, with your tinfoil hat?
Well, the thing is, this week, the biggest choice that the NFL could make with the scheduling was when to schedule teams over the weekend. And I don't know, I suppose putting the Seahawks and Niners first. I don't know how to take that as an advantage or a disadvantage either way. So I don't know why you're pointing this out as if I'm somehow wrong about how things turned out. No, it was me and the other 12s who put the pressure on the league and the Lions, saying that, well, obviously the Lions, they're going to be put in a point of disadvantage that they're not going to get it done. And you saw them interviewed after the game. They took it personally, whether it was the media counting them out or whether it was our own Seahawks fan base that was counting them out against the Packers. No, they not only wanted to win that game to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, they wanted to prove us wrong who had doubted them all week.
So just so I have this straight, you are taking the position that it was your conspiracy theory that then reverse psychologied the Lions into playing hard, even though the Seahawks had eliminated them with a win over the Rams.
Not only that, but it reverse psychologied the refs who were supposed to call the game, much like they did in the first half of that Rams-Seahawks game. And then they knew that we were onto them by halftime because we were pointing out all those moments to where they're calling it very loosely against the Rams and tight against the Seahawks. And everybody could see that. So then the switch flipped in the second half. And then the motivation for the Lions. Yeah, I'm doubling down. This is exactly how I planned it. And I'm glad that it was our pressure that made this work out for our Seahawks.
See, you would think that I hate this, but I actually love this because you're taking a page right out of my playbook. Screw that. I'm doubling down. It was because of you. Yes, I love it. Like, go all in. I think we didn't really hit on the roughing the kicker call against Dixon. A lot of comments.
The punter catching the defensive lineman call.
Right. Yes, exactly. A lot of people, well, that play call and that flag and bullshit. And that's why you guys won and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Yeah. It was a terrible call. It was a god-awful call. Not only did he just did Dixon have both feet on the ground and catch the lineman and all that, but he was pushed. He was pushed into the guy. Right. He was falling backwards and they got shoved further backwards and he could do nothing about it.
He was falling backwards and Dixon, I think, credit to him for catching that opportunity or seizing the opportunity to catch the guy on the way down and to get the running into the kicker call. It was good by him. I'm glad that DK didn't get the call for the eye jab on Ramsey after he hit Geno on the sideline. And I was glad we didn't get the taunting call as Quandre was showing off the football to Bobby Wagner over on the sideline.
Super lucky with all of that. Super unlucky with Taylor Rapp just taking a free shot at Tyler Lockett towards the end of the first half and not getting called for it. That's defenseless receiver 9 times out of 10 just because of the optics.
Taylor Rapp got his karma back, though, trying to jam his head into DK's abs in the second half and finding out that that's not a good idea.
I mean, he's seen the pictures, right?
If you're going to target anywhere on DK's body, I would think the abs would be the one place that you would want to avoid. It's the hardest part on DK. I would go for a helmet shot over an ab shot.
Yeah, his whole body is something you want to avoid. No, thank you.
Yeah. But good to see that Taylor got back up after that and was able to come back and play because, you don't want to see anybody go out to that.
I don't want him to have a brain injury.
No,
definitely not.
Or not be able to play anymore like Gus Frerotte when he ran into a brick wall that was an actual brick wall.
Well, I think it was even a padded brick wall.
It was a padded brick wall. So probably less padding on DK's abs.
I think the bat suit offers 0 padding.
Well, I am looking forward to this game against the Niners, but there's still some more to talk about. What do you say we get to the second half of the show?
I'm in.
I don't know if you know this, Adam, but coming up here on Saturday, must-win game in Santa Clara.
Is it win or go home?
I think so. I think that's what makes it a must-win.
That's amazing.
I heard it a lot in the game against the Rams, and so I wanted to make sure that we continue to let people know that it is a must-win game.
It's a must-win game for Seattle. They really need this one. But, there's guys that maybe don't get the hint when it comes to must-win games, and that's why the NFC West Coach Apocalypse is upon us with McVay and Kingsbury. I think they're both gone. For sure, Kingsbury, obviously. Yeah.
Just with the way that McVay is talking about things, though, I think we can be pretty sure that which way that's going.
Yeah. Because I figured this was a good time to do our NFC West roundup that we haven't done for a long time and take some joy.
Except we pretty much talked to NFC West the entire first half of the show because we just got done playing the Rams. We're about to play the Niners, and we talked about Kingsbury being fired already. So I feel like we have covered it fairly well.
I know, but I wanted to dance on the graves of Sean McVay and Kingsbury just a little bit more. It feels good.
Just
outlast another one of those jerk offs. Can we get all the frat boys out of the division this year? I don't know.
When you mentioned it in the first half, I've been thinking about it now as far as what way would be the easiest and best way to get Shanahan fired.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also antithetical to how I want this game to go, because if they get out to a 20-plus point lead,
yeah,
and then they fail in the second half and implode, that would tie in with his past history, and I think it would lend itself more toward him being fired than if they just went and got a blowout straight out of the gate.
Well, there you go. So if the Seahawks fall ahead big early, you have some hope that they can come back and end Kyle Shanahan's tenure in Santa Clara.
Yeah. I also like thinking of it as falling ahead big, like you said, because that's assuming that they're just waiting to come back. rather than falling behind. They're falling ahead.
Right. They're just they're baiting them. That's what's happening there. But
yeah,
I just thought it was interesting with those guys gone, because I think I wanted to put my prediction out there, Brandon. The next coach for the Arizona Cardinals is Harbaugh.
Nice.
It just makes all the sense. I wouldn't want to go to Denver, right? All the expectations and Russ not playing well.
Yeah.
Even though he's had a little bit of a bounce back. I know Kyler is a mystery, but shoot, he got Kaepernick all the way to a Super Bowl. He could get Kyler Murray, pouty ass Kyler Murray, to a Super Bowl probably.
I kind of like the idea of him going to the Colts.
Really? I would never go to the Colts right now.
Just because he was a quarterback for the Colts and, just kind of, make his career circular.
Right. By heading back to Michigan and then going back to Indy.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. It just would be interesting, because I wonder if I'd hate Harbaugh as much if he ended up in Arizona, because once he left the Niners, did not hate Harbaugh nearly as much.
You still hated Bruce Arians when he went to Tampa.
I know.
So
I know.
I think you'd find a way to reinvigorate your sports hatred toward Harbaugh.
I wonder with McVay, when he's in the booth, if I'm going to hate him like I still do Arians.
Well, you'll have to listen to him, so that'll make it easier to hate him.
What if when he's not the coach of the Rams and he's just doing commentary is actually okay and a little bit funny? What if that works?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe he just starts sucking down lozenges and his voice doesn't sound quite so grating because they're able to process the audio on the fly.
Right. You need some auto-tune.
That might fix it. Then he might be okay.
I don't know. I just wanted to dance on their graves a little bit more. It's fun. This is a fun season that way.
I'm enjoying the confidence of Seahawks fans, like irrational confidence going into this game. I've seen quite a bit of it, especially when now maybe amongst each other, like where we have our hesitancy as to how this game might go against the Niners. But the fact that we're being overly confident, particularly around Niners fans, that makes me happy.
Absolutely. Look, when you've got nothing to lose, you fake it till you make it. So yeah, we're winning this game. You heard me rationalize every possible way that this could be a basically close game for the Seahawks when it has no business being one. But you and I, Brandon, we went through it and we found answers. We found ways to be like, but the weather.
Well, and the other reason why I really like it is because that it just pisses Niners fans off to no end to think that we have some sort of confidence going into this game. And then we can have fun with that all week long. And then say it goes the Niners' way after this week. And we just go, well, that's the way everybody thought it was going to go. So no big whoop.
And we're still picking 5-ass catfish. Okay.
Right.
I don't know who put the meme up in the Ring of Honor this morning, but basically it was Seahawks fan talking catfish, and then Niner fan being like, yeah, but we're going to beat you. And then the next frame was Seahawks fan talking catfish, Niner fan shooting him down. And then the next frame is, Niner fan talking catfish, and the Seahawks fan just looks up at him and says, and we're still picking number 5. And then the Niner fan's like, will you stop having fun?
Quit having fun.
I liked it.
Football's fun. Pete Carroll has made this year fun. Geno Smith has made this year fun.
All the rookies.
Our members of the flock have made this year fun. We should welcome some of our new members of the flock.
We got some new ones after a must-win game against the Rams.
We've got at least one new member of the flock, I believe. Or it could be a renewal. But okay. I'm going to go through the list, and we're going to start out with someone who I know has been with for years and years. Well, before we get there, of course, we have to thank our executive producers, those folks that have been with us time and time again.
I was about to pull the e-brake on that train there for a second. I was like, whoa, wait a second.
Whoa, executive producers. Don't forget. Don't pass that up.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. DCH, Dustin Mock, Brian Shaw, and Rebecca Christensen. I would not have hit the first name. I tell you that before.
Yeah.
You don't need the e-brake. It's in my mind already.
It's true. You don't need me. I understand.
I don't need you for that. I do. I need you for some other things.
No, you don't need me. It's fine. I took the hint. It's cool. We're good. You need our executive producers, though.
Well, Jason Kyler Yano has been with us long enough. He could probably just fill in for you if you didn't think you were necessary on the show.
Fill in. That'd probably be an upgrade.
Jason comes in at 12:12, says, "Hey, fellas, I probably showed up as a new subscriber this month because I switched over from an annual to a monthly 12/12 flocker. Daycare expenses are real, and they're probably almost as painful as winning the Super Bowl only to lose 12 games the following season. Suck it, Rams." Just wanted to give a long overdue kudos to all the new shows. I'm apparently the type of person that's a bit wary of change and wasn't sure about 4 new shows, but I find myself really looking forward to each one every day. And I don't think has been talked about enough is how great Phil's analysis of our next opponents has been. They've been really enjoyable and of impeccably high quality to me, and the dad joke spirit of the what if themes are right up my alley. Also, screw that dude who crapped on the whammy. Whammy the catfishing catfish out of that catfishing whammies. Wham, wham, kablam fish. Also curious and hoping for some analysis in the future. How have our non-uncle tight ends been at run blocking? Thanks, fellas. Akamashite Omadeto. Good luck with that one. From Jason.
What up, Jason? Good to hear from you, bud.
Akamashite Omadeto.
Hey, you got it.
There.
Nailed it. I don't know what language that's supposed to be, but
Akamashite Omadeto.
Okay.
There we
Is
go.
that possibly Japanese?
I'm going to run it through Google Translate.
Okay. All right. Well,
Just
we'll
so
see
I-
what
just so I
see
know.
if Jason was subtly trolling us there, but a couple things in there, man.
Yeah, it's the Japanese greeting for the beginning of the new year.
Well, likewise, Jason. But one thing that I do think is hilarious, and I can't believe we didn't touch on it more than we have, is Sean McVay, the losingest coach ever after winning a Super Bowl. That's pathetic. They're the worst defending champs to ever defending champ. That's how bad the Rams were this year. Catfish them. I hope they enjoyed this craptastic season. Oh my gosh.
Well, that was one of the fun things about being able to beat them twice. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year, would you trade your history of beating the 49ers just to beat down the former Super Bowl champ and send them to the losingest season of any Super Bowl champ? I would have made that trade. I would have taken 2 regular season losses to the 49ers just to beat the Rams twice, just to be able to hand them that title.
I could totally see that, man. I would support that all the way too if that was the deal that you made with the devil. Because it does feel damn good. There's no doubt about that. I hate that team. Oh my gosh, I hate that team.
And we still get to get in the playoffs and have a shot at beating the Niners, so we can have our at least one win over them, as we have in many, many seasons before.
And we still get to pick number 5.
And we still get to pick number 5. How can anybody be mad about this year?
I don't know. But Jason also asked about non-uncles blocking tight ends.
Yeah.
And I will say that if you go back and you watch a lot of Parkinson when he's in there on run reps, he's been damn good as a run blocker.
Fant, not so much. And I don't think there was the expectation that Colby would be as much of a run blocker.
Right.
So I think he's probably the most improved. Obviously with Fant, we didn't have him on the team last year, so you don't have that gauge of improvement. But Colby's been good.
Been good. And Fant's been fine. He's been fine as a blocker. It's not like Fant's Jimmy Graham out there trying to block. He actually throws a few blocks, and he's really effective as a pass-catching tight end, as well as Parkinson. Tight end group has been an absolute bright spot this year. And I don't know is Fant up after this year, or does he have another year left on his deal? I think we have him for a minute.
Fant is signed through 2023.
Okay.
And then he's an unrestricted free agent.
All right. So another year of Fant after this, unless he holds out.
Yeah, another year of Fant. We've got Disley under contract. The only one, I guess, Colby. Oh, no, he's through 2023 too. So all 3 of them under contract next year.
Yeah. That's sweet. There's a position group you don't have to focus on a ton in the draft.
And I think I'm okay with that. I'd rather go heavy on defense and interior offensive line. Maybe the receiver, like you were talking about, that you're coming around to that idea somehow.
Yep, I was wrong about that. Yep.
That seemed kind of weird.
Yep, we need that.
Well, the one way I can get on board with it is if the receiver that they pick actually plays special teams and can return kicks and punts, then absolutely spend a first or second rounder on that person. But I think you're to the mind that Tyler Lockett is closer to the end of his career than I believe he is.
Okay.
And maybe that's just me wanting it to be that way.
I understand. Yeah. I don't know that it's so much that it's because he'll get to a point to where he really can't play. I think it's more just his frame. He's going to have a hard time taking the pounding for 5 more years. Like, I think it's another 2 to 3 years of Tyler, of like peak this version that we see right now.
I don't know. I feel like he plays so smart about it. Like he's found that sweet spot. Whereas in the beginning of the year, yeah, maybe he went down a little bit too early in some cases, and you heard people kind of get on him about it a little bit. So he probably heard it from fans a little bit. He probably even heard it from coaches a little bit. But then toward the end of the year, I feel like he's tried to pick his spots more.
True. He's taking some shots this year, man.
Yeah, or unnecessarily, like rap on the sideline.
I know.
Shouldn't have to take a shot when you're running literally out of bounds and the ball is right there. Yeah, you shouldn't have to take that.
Shouldn't, but he did. And that's the thing. Like, we didn't think that Baldwin was done when he was done.
Yeah, I think there's other stuff that probably went into Baldwin's decision. I don't really know what his injury situation was.
I don't know. I started listening to a really great interview with him by some Seattle podcaster who's...
I think it was Adam Ray.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd never heard of the guy before. He puts together a really nice show, though. And the interview was good.
Yeah, I think Ray is a comic and a Seahawks fan.
That sounds right. Because he did promote his comedy tour.
But he doesn't just do football.
It was a good interview. I listened to about the first third, and I'm looking forward to listening to the rest of it.
I listened to the part where Doug was talking about his concern for Russ, and
I don't know that I got that far.
Oh, okay. It was just a clip about how, he doesn't talk to Russ as much as he would want to.
Yeah.
He's concerned about just how this year has been tough for him, and he could probably use somebody to talk to.
Yeah. You've heard that sentiment from a lot of his offensive teammates, really. I heard Marshawn kind of talk that way. Now you hear Doug talking that way. I mean, yeah, it's a little sad. Sounds like all the other guys communicate more once they're away from each other. It sounds like the relationship that a lot of these guys have with Russ now is more the abnormality than the, normal situation. Yeah.
But it also sounds like everybody is really open to him being a bigger part of that group. So in that sense, it's good. That door is open.
Right.
It's not a situation where they're shutting him out for any type of reason.
They've all made it perfectly clear. Sounds like he hasn't really reached out. But then again, he's in the middle of a really tough season too. So we'll see how those storylines develop over the offseason, because I think he's going to repair a few of those relationships. And I do think he's going to be a lot better next year. I really do.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll have Pete Carroll trying to turn the screws as hard in the on the media side for him, because I think that played a part of it. I know that nothing would come out about that, but I think Pete was trying to make it hard, knowing that we would get a draft pick out of the deal.
Yeah,
and
he's trying to make John Schneider's job easier.
Continuing with our members of the flock, Jason Bonner came in with $60 via Venmo at Hawkra. Jason Bonner, the second place winner of the Ring of Honor Facebook Fantasy Football League.
Oh, he came in second in the Fantasy League.
Yeah. I think he lost to Bloomy.
Like, I wonder when Bloomy was born if the horseshoe was already up his ass, or if he had it surgically implanted when he was of legal age, or how that works. He's one of the most charmed human beings I've ever come across. And I'm not mad about it. I just want to know that he knows that he's that charmed.
And Jason says value for value. Yep. $60 from Venmo. Thank you, Jason. Jacob Wilson in at 12-12. Welcome to the flock to Jason.
Yeah, all the Jasons.
Yeah, back-to-back Jasons. Here we go. Ronan VA in at $36 for the year. Welcome to the flock to Ronan VA.
Heck yeah, man.
Or maybe it's Ron in VA.
That sounds a little more normal.
That sounds it's a lowercase I, so it looks like Ronan.
Oh,
which is also a cool name.
It is.
But Ron and VA makes sense to me. Okay. Stephen Kirkpatrick comes in with the $19.16 donation for the Seahawks Rams win. Says, 4 more score donations this season? Yes, please.
Hey, I love the optimism. I'm in it. If, like I've said, they can just get past this game.
Who knows where the ceiling is for this team? And they can keep having fun with it.
Absolutely. Look, there's a lot of fun ways to have a good time with this playoff, man. And, that's kind of the cool part about the other shows that they were talking about earlier in one of the emails there. It's just, you get a lot of cool discussions in What If that way. And then in the PNW Prop Stars, like, there's lots to talk about because you start talking about the odds of, well, if they win this game, then they could go all the way. Or what's your hedge bet? Like, my hedge bet, I want to bet somewhere that Tom Brady is going to the Super Bowl this year.
Like he'll physically be there?
No, as if him and the Bucks go.
Oh, you want to hedge on the Bucks actually making the Super Bowl?
Think about it. The Vikings are a fraud. They have a negative point differential. The Niners have young Tom Brady that you're not sure if you're really all in on the Purdy experiment through the playoffs, right? Playoff Purdy. We'll see. We'll see on that one. The Eagles, I just don't believe in that team. I just don't. I feel like they've been a little fluky. The Giants are no good. If there was ever a year for Tom Brady to like rally for the one more, here it is. It all sets up perfectly for that old bastard. Like, I take a $10 flyer on Brady goes to the Super Bowl.
You can probably get a sense of it too, just from the Super Bowl winning odds.
Yeah. I don't want to bet on him to win because I think the AFC team's winning this year.
No, but it's plus 2,800 right now to win the Super Bowl. Where do we find I guess we would look up NFC champion odds, wouldn't we?
Oh, that's how you do it. I couldn't figure out how to find it the other day because I was looking for it.
Okay. According to BetMGM, they have NFC championship odds at plus 1,000.
That's not bad. That's tidy.
That's bet 10 to win 100, right?
I think it'd be 10 to win 1,000.
Oh.
I don't know. I have to always do the calculator.
Well, shoot. The Seahawks with the lowest odds of everyone at plus 3,000.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, they are the 7th seed.
Yeah, they are, but they have a better record than the Bucks.
I guess.
They also lost to the Bucks. At least have a home game to get started with.
Right. And like I said, they lost to the Bucks.
Yeah.
And plus, Brady's looked pretty good. Or at least last week, him and the receivers were clicking. Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
170 for the Eagles, 190 for the Niners, 550 for the Cowboys, 1,000 for the Bucks, 1,200 for the Vikings. That seems too high. 2,800 for the Giants and 3,000 for the Seahawks.
So you were right. If you were to bet $10, that's $100 in your pocket if Tom Brady wins the NFC Championship game.
It's not terrible.
It's not. I got to come up with some bangers here for tomorrow, Brandon, because I don't know exactly how many dollars I'm behind Wilson in the total money, but I need a good one to overtake him because he hit on one big one this season, and that's like basically the only reason that he's ahead of me.
Right.
Yeah. So frustrating.
Oh, was that the special teams touchdown or something crazy?
Yeah, whatever it was. It was something nonsensical. Like, good luck. And like me winning my Phil Mary this week by predicting overtime. Like, it was nonsensical. There's no way I should hit on that.
But you did, and that helped you catch up to his nonsensical one.
Yeah, I think I made up like $8 because he had the same bet as me.
Yeah.
So that That sucked. And not only that, but poor sportsmanship. I'll have to get into it with Wilson on Prop Stars. If you're not listening to that show, it's fun. There's a lot of fan talk. But basically, I made the bet about Matt Gay making at least 2 field goals. And he came around with his next bet and made the same exact bet. That's poor form. It's poor form. Have a backup bet and go with that.
Oh, so you're not allowed to. You don't think that your fellow competitors should be allowed to stick to a bet that maybe if they got it all set up before the show, you need to have extras just in case somebody else takes yours.
I always have one extra just in case. Mm-hmm. Now, there's been weeks where we've doubled up on the same bet in the past, and I'm fine with that. But we're down to the nitty gritty where we're trying to make up ground here. And so the one way Wilson could win for sure would be
steal all your bets.
Copy every bet that I make. Yeah. I think it's dirty pool. That's some Princetonian backstabbery right there. Yeah.
Well, I suppose if we did the Pick'em League that way, just put out everybody's picks in advance, then that would be the surefire way for, I don't know, Kalispell MT Hawk to finish at the top of the standings because
there you go.
Yeah, he has 178 points going into the playoffs now, 1 point ahead of second place. I'm just here so I don't get fined. And well, Pete said we were awesome. And then in fourth place, sole position there, Charles Cross will make you jump. Make it a late season push. Holy smokes. I don't think I've mentioned Charles Cross will make you jump here recently.
Yeah, that's that name hasn't popped up when you've been reading the standings here. So the late push by the Rook.
Love it. And then in fifth place, there are 6 teams, all at 175 points. And no, Barry, I am not going to allow you to pick against the Seahawks in the playoffs just because you're a Commanders fan. You don't get any kind of leeway once we get to the playoffs. And now we have somebody watching over the playoffs to make sure that nobody steps out of line here.
Absolutely.
We even have an email from Evie saying,
I was going to say, do not test Evie with the wrong bets or the wrong picks. You know better now.
Oh, before we get to Evie's email, Bayou Hawk, the winner of week 18 with 15 picks correct.
That's impressive. That's super impressive.
Yeah, only person to pick 15 games correct this past week.
And Bayou Hawk did it without incurring the wrath of the Pick'em protector, Evie. So, it's legit.
Evie says, Dear Pick'em League underlings, I have compiled a list of all, as Dad calls them, dirty, rotten cheaters. But as he spends his life telling people we shouldn't publicly shame people, we reprimand in private. So please don't read their names out. Aw.
That's all right. We know who they are now.
Evie, your dad, technically, that is correct, which is the best sort of correct. But I do appreciate that I have the names here, just in case. Because, maybe I will shame them, especially. Well, we'll see how things go.
In a private email?
Yeah. She says, Dad's very excited that the Seahawks made the playoffs. He was shouting so loud at the TV on Sunday night, or was it Monday morning, that he woke me up. Thank you for reading out my emails and allowing me to be Pick'em League overlord. It winds Dad up when I tell him I will take points off his score. Yeah. He says I have to finish my email with, Go Hawks.
That's right.
Love Evie, the Pick'em League arch overlord.
Absolutely. I love my Pick'em League arch overlord. Thank you, Evie. I think we'd be a little lost without her. We needed a hammer because we're both a little too nice about things sometimes. And Evie's the perfect one.
Well, the other thing I like about this is in many of the weeks where people have picked against the Seahawks and then it counts toward their points, I've gone back and I've rolled their picks back to correctly pick the Seahawks, and so they don't get points for that erroneous pick. Evie went back and picked out the people who picked against the Seahawks in the week that the Seahawks won. Oh, and so I have that list of these people trying to get ahead, but then I couldn't roll. I don't change their pick if they're wrong.
Right.
It only counts against you to pick against the Seahawks.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah. So you've got now the complete list.
Yes. And then we have Hugh coming in at Lloydzilla out on Twitter. Also, father of the Pick'em League Arch Overlord says, I can't say how lucky I am to support two teams in the NFL. One, an absolute disaster who traded their franchise quarterback away, who are only going to win 3 games max this season, who whiffed on so many draft picks, it's unreal, who will be starting a joke of a quarterback, who insist on persisting with an old coach with his old-fashioned ideas, and that has the worst roster in the NFL. I mean, man, who would support that team? But I do. As a bonus, I also support a side that has a winning record, reached the playoff, swept last season's Super Bowl champs, has a quarterback who has set pretty much every franchise passing record this season, candidates for offensive and defensive rookie of the year this season, 2 1,000-yard receivers, and a coach who inspires his side and probably deserves to be named coach of the year. And we should only get stronger with multiple top 50 draft picks. Now that is a side to get excited about. Oh, wait. They're the same catfishing team. So catfish you, media. Catfish everyone on social media with an opinion who doesn't understand what the Seahawks are all about. Catfish the Lambs, Shards, and when we beat them in the playoffs this week, catfish the Whiners too. What a season. One that has been such an amazing one to be a Seahawk and to literally flip the bird to everyone who wrote us off. Go Hawks from Hugh.
Go Hawks, Hugh. I don't need to do my do better now. That was exactly what I was going to say. I swear to God. Hugh's totally on it. Yeah. Catfish. All those guys who counted us out. Like, screw them all. And their crappy narrative that they painted about this team that none of us really believed. We all thought there's more talent here than 3 wins. But no. All we got to hear all offseason was the narrative of how depleted of talent this team was. And so Hugh summed it up. Of course he did. But you know what? At the end of the day, I still had things to say, like catfish, all the Priscos of the world, all those assholes at USA Today that said we'd only win 3 games. Everybody who decided that the Cardinals and the Rams were going to be better than us this year, along with every other catfish team in the league. It is so awesome to see Pete Carroll stick it all right up their stupid asses, to see John Schneider look like the most genius GM in the entire freaking league after the Russell Wilson heist. It's all amazing. Playoffs, top 5 pick, having my cake, eating it too. I'm loving it. And to everybody who doubted all the talent on this team, catfish you and do better.
Well, I'd go right into my do better too. I also have an email from John Davison, but what the heck? Let's do better too. My do better is for the people who constructed that stupid stadium down in Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium. Not only is it a place that houses one of the worst teams, well, actually the worst post Super Bowl team in NFL history, but they couldn't even build it correctly. They had rain recently in Southern California, and I know that maybe people who construct buildings there aren't used to the idea of sometimes water comes from the sky. Apparently, they didn't take that into account for the construction either, because SoFi Stadium, it was raining so much here this past week that it was literally leaking through the roof of the stadium.
$1 billion stadium.
A $5 billion stadium. And they couldn't make the roof sealed to the point to where it did not allow leaks through the roof. Not only that, there were multiple injuries of people walking out of the stadium because they didn't design it in a way to make the cement not slippery. So people were walking and slipping because of the amount of rain. Never once have I had to worry walking down the ramp or anywhere in the Seahawks stadium that I might slip and fall. They did not think to lay the cement in a way that actually makes it so it's not slippery.
No texture.
On top of that, the college football championship was there this past week. No tailgating. No tailgating at SoFi Stadium. For all that, people who designed and currently run SoFi Stadium do better.
That's atrocious. Like, they literally did not factor in one of the weather conditions that happens on the planet Earth when they built that stadium. I mean, even if you built a catfish in the middle of the Sahara,
you might want to think about it.
It still rains there once in a while. You might factor that in.
Yeah.
And not only that, but put some texture on the concrete. How hard is that?
Not hard.
$5 billion. $5 billion. Give me a break. I built the addition onto our little cabin for $2,000. And guess what? It's freaking solid. It doesn't leak. It's actually watertight. And I'm an idiot. I'm not even an engineer.
And I have to think that the permitting process for these sorts of things and the building codes for these sort of things are pretty strong in California.
Yeah.
And so whoever did the inspection on these efforts, I think they messed up too.
Yeah, they must have. And what? None of those engineers in Southern California have ever heard of the sign slippery when wet? Like, they've never seen that one? Come on, man. That's pathetic.
All right. So before we get into Better at Life, John Davison emails in. He says, "Well, we made it, and no one was more surprised than me. But sit back and let the bard tell you a lovely story. On Saturday, it was the third round of the FA Cup, an important day for football in England. It is a knockout competition, and the winner goes to the final at Wembley. People on your side of the pond should Google it. Anyway, my team, Newcastle United, drew Sheffield Wednesday away. We were allocated 5,000 tickets, and all the Geordies traveled down on Saturday for the game, a distance of about 110 miles. We were given the Leppings Lane end, as the English fans are segregated for safety reasons. We were all in there, so we could sing, Adam. It's great, honestly.
All right.
On getting there, we couldn't find a pub the police would let us in, so we went into the ground early. We managed to grab a couple of pints under the stand in a ramshackle bar. Clutching my beer, I was stood next to two Newcastle fans and started talking to them as we were all one family when we go away. To the first bloke, I said, 'Squish the fish,' as he had a Dolphins hat on. And to the second, 'Go Hawks,' as you've guessed what he was wearing. He was gobsmacked. I was a Seahawks fan, and we started chatting. He was at Wembley for the Raiders game, but I told him about Barry and I at Washington in Seattle. Now, I asked him about how he got his information, and he said he never missed a thing called the Seahawkers podcast. And he was gobsmacked even more when I told him that you two were very good friends of mine. I then asked him about the email section and had he heard of the Bard, a.k.a. John Davison. He said he heard every week and told me about how the Bard was from Northeast England, like we were. I then said, 'How do you do? I'm John Davison, a.k.a. the Bard.'
Wow.
When he was triple gobsmacked, and we had a great half-hour talking before we went to our seats. The point of all this is that this is what the ethos of the podcast is all about. Lads, if you're listening to this, then away the lads and send the show an email to confirm my story. Trip was a treat for my birthday, and guess what? Why, Newcastle got beat 2-1, of course, and we drove the 110 miles back home, thoroughly pissed off, but I think you'll agree it's a great story, and I knew I had to tell you about it. Cheers and go Hawks from the Bard."
Yeah. So what you take away from that story is that John's kind of a big deal. Like, that's what you should take away. But the funny thing is that he experienced a moment that I've always kind of thought, well, maybe one of these days, I'll bump into somebody that listens to the show that doesn't know I am who I am, right? It'd be like, doesn't know who I am.
Right.
I'm not trying to say it like that, but you know what I mean. It'd be like, oh yeah, no, that's actually me, and have some fun with that moment. The closest that I ever got, I think I was with you in Seattle, and there was a Seahawkers podcast sticker on the gas cap flap of a taxi. And as we're getting in the car, I'm like, this is going to be fun. Like, I can't wait to screw this guy. Like, he obviously listens to the show. He's got the sticker on the car. Like, it's going to blow his mind that it's us. Nope. He never listened to the show. Somebody else put it on there, and it kind of was an anticlimactic moment. So I've been waiting for that kind of moment, and here it is. John has it way before either one of us. It's really fun.
So yes, to John, for you being podcast famous, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
Oh, wow. And see, look, I one of the things I like about this show, Brandon, is that basically I didn't know this is the way it was going to go, but I used Hugh as my do better. He did all the heavy lifting for me. Yeah. And then you just used John for your better at life, and he did all the heavy lifting for you. We were very lazy this episode.
Yeah. Well, I actually got to my better at life. I was realizing early because when I was talking about taking credit for the Lions win, I realized that was actually my better at life. And so we've done this long enough that we can change things on the fly. And when I realized that, I figured that John had to be my better at life. I mean, I totally had John planned as my better at life going into this show. He was not my fault. He was not my fault. John, you weren't my fallback better at life.
Right. Why wouldn't you have John penciled in there? Because he's clearly the biggest star of the show.
Yeah.
He's an international star.
I think he's probably got multiple better at lives anyway, because I know that he's made the fishing lures for the show. That probably earned him a better at life in one of these past 397 episodes before this one.
Yep. True fact.
He's been with us long enough. He should probably have 4 or 5 better at lives.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
Me too. I haven't kept a tally, but
I bet you he's gotten one every 100 shows or so.
He deserves one.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Well, man, I had a similar conundrum with my better at life because I also wanted to give it to Motor City Dan Campbell and all those boys in Detroit for playing so hard and helping us get into the playoffs and all that. But we talked about it quite a bit.
Probably should.
Like you said.
Yeah, we could give it to him.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to audible, but yeah, we can just go here. Yeah, to the king of kneecaps and clawing and scratching and just grit. I love the way that Dan Campbell coaches. I love the way that those Detroit Lions players have responded to him. I think they're a great feel-good story. And I could see why people maybe wanted to see the Lions more than the Seahawks because they haven't been there forever. You know, it's just tough on them. But those guys, they went out there, they played hard, they made Aaron Rodgers, basically cry out on the field. That was nice. Nothing like seeing Aaron Rodgers walk off the field for the last time with Randall Cobb. That was a good time too. Go host some Jeopardy, you ass. Catfish. I love the Lions. Thank you for getting us into the playoffs and for doing it with some style too. So Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions, better at life than Skip Bayless.
See, I like that. I like recognizing the Lions to help close the show because they do. They deserve it. And
they closed the deal.
They closed the deal. They closed the deal with Rodgers, just like we closed the deal with McVay. There's some symmetry there. I like it a lot.
I like it a lot too, man. And man, playoffs, Brandon, playoffs.
Saturday. We don't even have one of the great things. See, I think that the NFL scheduling lords did us a favor, making us the first game of playoff weekend because this is great. I don't have to wait all weekend. Yeah. It feels like it takes so long when you have to wait until the evening game on Sunday and basically you're one of the last people to watch the playoffs. We don't have to wait. We get the first game right out of the gate.
Heck yeah, man! Because oftentimes, like 2 out of those 3 games before, something squirrely happens, and then you start to get extra nervous. All that stuff. Don't have to do any of that. We get it right out of the gate. We get a win into a wide open NFC playoff picture. That's what's going to happen. I'm trying to speak it into existence. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.